Welcome back to another episode of Pig and Whiskey Test Kitchen. Today we are cooking whole leg lollipops with a nice sweet Thai chili glaze. We got a little sweet combined with a little bit of heat and a big fat juicy leg. Let's get started. First off, we're going to need 1 clove of garlic. Want to make sure it's a pretty good size one. We want these lollipops to be garlicky and delicious. Trim the ends off and set aside. Then we're going to peel a little bit of ginger root. Just trying to get the tough peel off the outside. Then we'll cut off about a 1-inch piece. Now we're going to get out our mini food processor and go ahead and throw the garlic and the ginger in the bowl. Next we are going to seed and core 3 to 4 red peppers. Ideally you'd want to use red jalapenos here, but all I had access to was red cherry peppers. However, cherry peppers do have a little bit of heat, so it actually worked out quite nice. Notice I'm leaving some of the seeds inside the pods, and those seeds are bringing a little more heat to the party. Now, if you'd prefer a mild sauce, you could definitely use red bell peppers here. Okay, once we have those in the bowl, we're going to add 2 teaspoons of soy sauce. You can eyeball it like I did, or you can measure it out. Place the lid on, and then we're going to pulse to combine. Once it's thoroughly combined, we're going to scrape all the contents into a small saucepan. Now once we finish scraping, we're going to add a few more ingredients, and after that we'll be moving it to the stove. We are adding 1/3 cup of rice wine vinegar, 1/3 cup of water, 1/3 cup of sugar, and then we're going to whisk to combine. Now go ahead and move that over to the stove, and we'll place it over medium heat. While that's heating up, we're going to mix up 1 tablespoon of cornstarch to 1 tablespoon of water. Stir that to combine, and be sure to stir it thoroughly, as we don't want any lumps in the sauce. While the sauce is heating up on the stove, you're going to want to keep a close eye on it. Do not walk away. As soon as you turn your back on the sauce, it will either burn or boil over, and then you're going to have one hell of a mess. Once the peppers have had a chance to cook for 3 to 5 minutes, we're going to stir in our cornstarch mixture. You'll notice that the cornstarch will start cooking immediately, so you'll want to kill the heat and keep stirring until it thickens. Once it gets to a sauce-like thickness, that's when you know you're done. However, keep in mind this sauce will thicken as it cools. Fast forward to the next day. Get your charcoal lit and dump it in the smoker. While the smoker's coming up to temp, move inside to prep the chicken. Today we're using whole legs, and they look like chicken quarters, but chicken quarters technically have a backbone in them, so these are just the legs, which is basically a bone-in drumstick and a bone-in thigh. What we're going to do is peel the skin back, remove any bits of fat that we see. And then we're going to take our Gunter Wilhelm paring knife, which is basically a razor sharp scalpel, and we're going to peel the meat back from the bone on both sides of the bone, just making small cuts, being very careful to cut the bone free from the meat. Then you can fold the bone backwards towards the knuckle and it will pop loose from the leg bone. Go ahead and trim the meat. Just trim off any thin parts you see. But keep in mind we want to be able to wrap the thigh meat around the top of the leg. That's what's going to create our jumbo-sized lollipops. Be sure to scrape off any fat or any loose edges you find, just cleaning it up. Okay, so I've got to give credit where credit is due here. But I got this idea from a buddy of mine, Tom Barra. He is the head pitmaster for Philly Blind Pig Barbecue Team. I saw him do legs like this once at a contest. I'm not sure how he did in that contest, but man was it a gorgeous box. Those plump lollipops really filled that box, and I'd be surprised if he didn't place in the top 10. Anyway, Tom is an old school competitor and an old school Philadelphian, and personally a culinary mentor of mine. So if you go to his Facebook page, you can check out some of the cool things he's done. He specializes in whole pigs and whole boneless pigs. I'll publish a link to his page in the description so you can give him a follow. But Tom is not only famous for his cooking skills, he is also famous for a cameo in a particular movie you might recognize. Okay, back to the chicken. Now that we got them all trimmed up, today we'll be using some Big Papa Smoker's Little Louie's rub. What I like about this rub is that it has a nice amount of pepper balanced with garlic and a good amount of salt. It works really well on chicken, and we're going to lightly sprinkle the sides, front, back, and inside pieces of all the chicken. We have some more trimming to do, but the idea here is that we're going to put the skin back over the seasoning, then do the rest of the trimming. That way we don't have to put the skins on, take them off, put them back on again, so it's just a one-shot deal here. Typically we would do all the trimming before seasoning, but in this case it makes sense to season in the middle of trimming. Okay, with the seasoning done, let's put the skins back on. Gently pull the skins. Whoa, almost lost a toe there. When the skin is back on, we're going to cut around the base of the meat, right where it begins to taper. So just cut all the way around the leg, all the way to the bone. Careful not to cut through the bone or cut your finger. But once you have it cut all the way around, grab a paper towel, get a hold of the knuckle. The cartilage should twist right off. Some of them are a little more problematic than others, but keep working it and it'll come off. You'll kind of get the hang of it after a while. I notice there's a couple of tendons hanging out here, so I'm going to use my shears to clip them right off. It's not a problem. Then take the bone and grab the meat and just slightly twist the bone while you're pushing the meat towards the end. Once you've done that, if there's anything else sticking out, go ahead and trim that off as well. Then we're going to trim the skin and wrap it around the bottom side of the meat. It's going to create a little envelope for the meat to cook inside of. And now that we've done that, we're going to place them in a foil pan. Alright, let's do the rest of the chicken. As you notice, the shears are fairly crucial in this step. Got all of our chicken prepped, and now we're going to place it in an aluminum pan. Normally I would use a half pan for this, but all I have at the moment are full pans, so it will just have to do. Just arrange them in the pan so that they're not touching each other. And then we're going to retrieve a stick of butter from the fridge. Slice it into thin slices and spread them out evenly across the pan. No particular method, just spreading them around so that when they melt, they'll be on all sides of the chicken. Really just providing a little bit of flavor and keeping them from sticking in the pan. And now we're going to season the tops. Just a light sprinkle with our Little Louie's rub. Just enough to give the skin a tiny bit of flavor and a little bit of texture. Okay, once we get those seasoned up, oops, missed a spot. Okay, yeah, once we get those seasoned up, we're heading to the smoker. Needles up, we are at 300 degrees. We'll go ahead and throw a couple of chunks of wood in there for flavor. Today we are using just a couple of chunks of hickory. Then we're going to add the grates back in and place our chicken pan on top of the grates. Go ahead and replace the lid and set your timer for 45 minutes. Fast forward 45 minutes, and then we're going to carefully remove the chicken and place them back on the rack. Basically, just allow them to drain off some butter, and we'll also allow them to cook over the direct heat since we aren't cooking with the baffles today. However, before we place them back on, we're going to take them inside and wrap the bones in foil. This will prevent the bones from getting too dark because sometimes when they're over direct heat, they'll turn black and look burnt, and we want our little chicken legs to look nice and pretty. Now we can remove our butter pan, get the grates ready for the chicken. Now we're going to take the whole rack and just set it right back on the grate. Notice these larger ones. We're going to try and set those more in the middle and keep the smaller ones off to the side. Then we're going to get our temperature probes and put them in, probing one of the larger legs so that we know that when the larger one finishes, the smaller ones will be done as well. And we're going to cook until they reach an internal temperature of 195 degrees. Now, smoked chicken is technically done at 165, but thighs and legs can go a little higher, so we're going to let them go a little longer. Now that we've hit 195, we're going to use this opportunity to go ahead and sauce them. We can remove the probe since we no longer need it, but then we're going to apply a thin layer of our homemade Thai chili sauce to each of the thighs. Go ahead and brush them thoroughly and spread them out. Make them look shiny and pretty. Once we've got a thorough coat on these, we're going to go ahead and replace the lid and set our timer for 10 minutes. Now that our sauce is set and the chicken is done, you can remove the entire rack or take them out one by one like I'm doing here. Once removed, take them inside, take the foil off the bones, and get them ready for presentation. Look how gorgeous these are. As you can see, these are the most plump and juicy lollipops you'll ever eat. They are sticky sweet, a little bit spicy, and of course, delicious. Thank you for joining us today in the Pig and Whiskey Test Kitchen. Hope to see you next time. Subscribe.